Hey, friends, welcome to an episode of the Evergreen Marketing Podcast, previously known as the Carrot Cast. On these interviews, my whole goal is to help you become an amazing evergreen marketer by sharing the stories of people who are getting serious results by doing what we teach. One thing I want to mention real quick, if you haven't already heard, join us in the Evergreen Marketing Facebook group where Trevor and I, we get really tactical, do our live show every single Thursday and invite people on to do Q&As. And also make sure to check out Trevor's new podcast. If you've been listening to the Truck Talks for years, make sure to check out Entrepreneur Freedom Formula in the show notes below. There's a link, or just go to your podcast app, type in Entrepreneur Freedom Formula. Anyways, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my new friend, Daniel Cabrera out of San Antonio. What's up, man?
How's it going, Brady? How we doing, bud?
Doing good, man. I probably just like butchered the last name. I didn't want to say it like the whitest way to Cabrera. I wasn't going to say it like that.
Oh, you're good, man. For some reason, I've been called David my whole life, so I'm just glad you called me Daniel.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
So let me give I'll kind of let you talk about yourself, your business, what you do, just a little bit of kind of funny backstory. I was down in San Antonio last fall and I was prepping for a wholesaling live event with home buying, home selling guys, Mike and Charles, and I'm getting ready for my speech, and I'm teaching people about evergreen marketing, and I'm pulling up examples of people who are ranking in San Antonio. I'm like, okay, if you Google "sell my house fast" San Antonio, Texas, you Google what to do in probate San Antonio, you're gonna find a website like this, and I'm showing people like the ideal strategy and like what the website should look like, all these examples. And this guy's website keeps popping up, and I'm like, oh man, this is like everywhere. I need some more examples. So anyways, I didn't get to meet you then, but it was a good event. I come back from a extended vacation and I get this email in my inbox. The dude's like, hey, been using Carrot for years. Love what you guys teach. I've been getting serious results. Would love to collaborate. And I'm like, heck yeah. So let's talk
Funny
about
timing,
it. Yeah, it was great timing. And so anyways, full circle here. So I want to talk about, man, you've generated over 1,000 leads. I think I checked yesterday. It was like 1,035 or something like that in the past 7.5 years. And I want to talk about what you've learned from that, how you generated those leads, kind of what your SEO journey has been like, because it's overwhelming for some people. And yeah, I just kind of want to break it all down, what you've learned from marketing and what you're doing, just what's working for you right now.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I'm bummed. I would have loved to have met up with you guys here in San Antonio, but we'll catch you. We'll catch you on the next one for sure. But
yeah.
I don't really know where my journey started. I knew this is something I wanted to get into for a while. I was at a job that I couldn't stand, but was doing well. And I just knew flipping houses was what I wanted to do full time. And, I remember looking at Carrot websites and I think one of your competitors. And I started just doing research across the country. And I started, same thing, sell my house fast, wherever, sell my house fast, Florida, New York, you name it. And Carrot just kept on popping up. And then going on Bigger Pockets and seeing Trevor and you guys on there just talking. I started a Carrot website one day, and I can't tell you, I've probably made plenty mistakes with different companies, definitely different mistakes just myself, but just that constant over time, just learning and gathering more information and more knowledge, and you keep doing something for so long, inevitably you're going to learn and get smarter, and things are going to start to, finally come into place. And yeah, it's wild. I still go into my dashboard on Carrot and I look at it, I'm like, man, this is over 1,000 leads. It's nuts.
Cool.
From a guy who had no marketing background whatsoever, when I kind of started this journey. But I had a banking background before this. I was a banker for years and no background whatsoever in, real estate, marketing, you name it. But
Nice, man. So to give people context, you're in San Antonio, which I got a little bit of roots in San Antonio. We were just talking about that before we hit record, but San Antonio, pretty big population. You're over 1 million people, right?
It's
couple million
Just
people?
under, probably just under 2 million at this point.
Yeah, so huge city. There was what, like 4 or 5 military bases, so there's a lot of traffic coming in and out. A
Totally.
lot of little, like infinite number of suburbs and little small towns are always picking up deals from outside San Antonio. Great place to invest, and still I feel like cheaper than it should be. Um,
Totally.
so anyways, one thing I also wanted to mention is it, even just within the first few minutes of talking to you, it seems like you're someone with a long-term mindset. I think that is critical for SEO, evergreen marketing. Like
For
people give
sure.
up 1-3 months. It's like, no, no, no. This is a long game, like imperfect progress. Would you agree with that about yourself?
I mean, the thing is that there's been stretches where I don't do anything with my SEO, which it's always on the back of my mind, but our rankings still stay, so it is something that, yeah, in my opinion, there's no better lead than an SEO lead than any other form of advertisement, whether
Mm.
that's pay per click or mail or you name it. But when there's search intent behind someone who's looking to sell their house, that's, in my mind, the most quality lead, not only in gathering information from the individuals, but they're more prone to just want to talk to you because they're searching for you versus seeing a display ad somewhere, or some form of banner. They're really wanting to come to you, and that makes, all the difference, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, SEO has been a pillar from day one, which I didn't fully understand. And I don't even know if I fully understand it today because it's
Yeah,
still something that's ever evolving. But yeah, I mean, it's my favorite form of, generating traffic and actually closing and buying deals and getting deals.
that's awesome, man. We hear that a lot. Like just the higher motivation, just naturally, someone's searching for you. They find you. It's
Yeah.
inbound versus an outbound lead. We might dig into that a little bit more deeper. I got some follow-up questions there, but let's go back. I want to talk to you about like what you did the first 90 days with Carrot. What was it like fumbling through? Did you do a course? Were you just like writing, doing content when you launched that first Carrot site?
Man, that was a while back.
We're going back to this is I think 2017, 2016, yeah,
Yeah.
2016.
So I remember when I first started Carrot, yeah, I was trying to get used to the system, the platform rather. I really didn't have, you know, much to go off of other than what I was seeing on Carrot. And that was totally, helpful. But I partnered with someone who had more of a marketing background.
Hmm.
Albeit it wasn't really, he had a little bit of a background in SEO, but had more of a background in pay per click,
Hmm.
for Google ads.
This is a local
And
guy.
no, he was based out of California,
Okay.
found him online, and we worked well. He was willing to work on a commission only basis.
Hmm.
And it actually, oddly enough, it worked pretty well. And I think it's different now than it is today. Because in 2017, my PPC budget was $500 a month. And on $500 a month, I
Yeah.
closed like my first several deals on a
Yeah.
$500 a month budget. And yeah, I was funneling everything through my Carrot website, and it was pretty much right out the box, and it was converting. Now, granted, in today's market, I don't even know if I would get a lead for $500, going through pay per click, but that's kind of how it started. And then I was like, okay, there's something here. I'm just kind of tiptoeing into this. I've got the website, we're running Google ads, we've gotten some traffic, and it was kind of that proof of concept that I needed to know that this is something that I can see a future with, and it was working. And then, the more and more we kept on going, I just knew that I wanted SEO to be, really that end game. I know the PPC is helpful up front, and I agree. And I still do some paid advertising even till today, but I just knew that long game, I wanted that, the organic search more
Yeah.
than And because I think it's human nature, you go on Google, you search for something, it's like the first few are paid ads. And I'm always scrolling past those. Like those guys are just paying to be here.
Right.
You go
Yeah.
down to the organic section, those are the guys who put in the hard work. And I've
Yeah.
always wanted to have that credibility of, okay, they're ranking well, they must be credible. And I think it's been a big help. But
Yeah. And that stack for PPC is only getting bigger and bigger. I feel like every time I Google something, it grows by one spot.
for
It's like the
sure.
whole page is all sponsored. It's all PPC. So you
So
partnered up with a guy, you got a taste of it. You're like, okay, yep, these are the leads I want. When did you start seeing results with SEO? Well, and I guess kind of two questions in one. Were you doing more SEO work yourself or were you outsourcing it, partnering up with someone? And then when did you start to see results and the workload for SEO go down?
I started, I didn't, I probably didn't see, I had more luck on like the Google My Business side than I did on organic traffic side,
Mm,
at least initially. And I would say, really, within the last probably 3 years, we've seen a much bigger growth on the organic side. And I partnered with a different company again that, yes, it was not cheap to work with them, but they were worth their weight in gold.
mm,
And that's when we started seeing, okay, we need the credibility on the website. We need good content. We need solid backlinks and a combination, of all of those things, which in the grand scheme of things is not very complicated. It's what you guys preach all the time,
mm.
but it's still a lot,
It's not. It
and
is not complicated. It just takes a lot of. It can take a lot of time.
it can take some time. It could take some effort. There's no doubt about it. But I would say really within the last 3 years or so, and we were always getting leads, just not to the extent or magnitude that we are now. And then
Yeah.
within the last, probably last 6, 7 months, I've been managing our SEO more so.
Mm,
And Grant, I'm still outsourcing certain things, but it's me more so managing the direction of how, our marketing and our SEO efforts are being um, achieved.
yeah. So with Care for like 7, 8 years, whatever, you were getting leads, but not super consistent. You running PPC. What motivated you around 3 years ago to be like, okay, let's double down on SEO? Were you starting to lose rankings or leads?
Well, I think what it was, I think it was just pay per click is, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert in paid advertising because I'm not. I
Yeah.
dabble with it somewhat, but it was just so, um, what's the word I'm looking for here? It was
Expensive.
expensive
Yeah.
and all over the place and inconsistent.
Mm, yeah.
There was, it's interesting because I remember starting off, I would spend $500 a month on PPC and I was closing 1 or 2 deals a month
Mhm.
on $500, like wild. And fast forward a couple of years, I'm lifting up my budget because I'm trying to replicate that success. And then I'm spending 2 grand a month on ads and then up to 5 grand a month in ads. And, you go 3, 4 months without closing a deal and you just spend 20 grand.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is nuts. So I just, knew, let me just focus, on SEO. If I spend 20 grand in SEO and I don't close a deal, there's a lasting impact. Like that's going to stay there. The content stays there.
Yeah.
Everything else stays there. And it's inevitably going to help me moving forward. The minute I turn the well off on the paid side, it's done.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that one. So I
It
just
didn't
knew
build anything. Yeah.
exactly.
Huh.
Exactly.
Interesting. What company did you use that you had success with about 3 years ago? If you don't wanna
Oh,
mention them, that's fine.
yeah. It's not that I don't want to mention them. I just don't know if They want to be mentioned. If somebody wants to reach out to me personally, I'm more than happy to kind of share, on a
Yeah.
one-off. But I think finding the right people to work with is, you know, it's just so helpful
Yeah.
because, you know, a little bit of knowledge, could really mess things up. And, if you're trying to save a couple bucks, I would urge you to maybe spend a little bit more and make sure you have the right people in your corner who actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
We've got a video somewhere on our YouTube channel about that, about like hiring an SEO agency, and like I think the big thing is they need to be industry specific. They need to understand the industry. Like, don't go hire a general SEO expert.
yeah,
So, yeah. Anyone listening, if you want to hire out your SEO, just go to carrot.com/marketplace. We've got a few SEO vendors in there that can
yeah.
help you out. But anyways, um, one thing I want to ask you, so especially with running this for over 7 years, is there anything you do differently with your carrot side or with SEO or just your marketing in general if you had to start over again? Or maybe not because it was so cheap back in the day.
Yeah, fair. If there's anything differently I would do right from the get, knowing what I know now, yeah, there's plenty I would do. I would, but it's still tough to say because throughout this journey, when I was first starting out, I was counting every single penny just because, I had a full time job. I had a brand newborn. Everything was so much more. And it's kind of easy to say, yeah, in hindsight, if I can go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say the content, just the more content you can have, obviously, the better. Working obviously with the right people, building those quality backlinks with the great content, with great on page optimization, all of those things. And I wish I would have, just done that from the very beginning because just age of a domain is the contributing factor. And,
Yeah.
but again, I wouldn't change anything, but I wish I could put, you know, the brand I've got now on me 7, 8 years ago. That would have,
Yeah. Sped
helped out
things up a
helped
little
out a
bit
whole
more
lot
juice. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. You can't have too much content, at least as long as it's quality.
Yeah.
One question: what other types of marketing are you doing right now?
Real, I would say 75% of it is going to be SEO. We're at a point where there's only so much more we can grow in San Antonio. It's just, unless we wanted to scale into other markets or into other cities. And I can't see why I would do Google ads any longer if we're already ranking pretty well on the organic side. It's just kind of double dipping. And I guess if I really wanted to corner the market in every single which way, I guess that's an option. But the only other real thing we're doing is Facebook ads. We just started doing this about 4 months ago, and so I don't really have like a great input one way or the other. I know it's something that I want to see how it works out. We've closed one deal. We've got a lot of good leads. But again, it's just the quality in comparison to SEO. There's just no comparison.
You set the bar high. You're used to that
I
really
know I'm
warm, hot
spoiled.
lead.
I'm spoiled at this point. I get leads coming in through there that just have a zip code
Yeah,
or just say San Antonio. There's nothing behind them. And granted, it's our job, my job to reach out and uncover and figure out what's going on. But, with that being said, we've closed one deal. We've gotten a lot of decent leads and I'm expecting and hoping, but it's just such a crowded market too
Hmm.
on Facebook ads. But,
It's noisy
just,
for sure.
yeah, always willing to try new things though.
Do you know about what your customer acquisition cost is per deal, like Facebook versus SEO?
On Facebook, yeah, I can tell you we've closed, one deal and 3.5 months. So our running acquisition cost right now for Facebook is going on $5,000 for one deal so far.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And I will say, I think we're getting better at it. And I'm hoping to bring, because when we first initially started, it was our cost per lead was, I would say probably around $100 to $120 per lead, which I think is really expensive. Now I could be wrong. Facebook's kind of newer to me, but now, I've been seeing our cost per lead come down to like $50. But it's interesting. What I like about Facebook is I can be super targeted in areas that I want my ads to show.
Mm.
Right. And in neighborhoods that I know undoubtedly I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah.
In SEO, you kind of can't. I mean, you can do that,
Right.
but you can't really do it in a city with almost 2 million people and so massive. Like there's pockets that I completely avoid on Facebook, but in SEO, you take what just comes in on people who are. So that aspect of it is pretty neat. In regards to SEO, like our customer acquisition cost, I would say it is cheaper for right now. There's no doubt about it. It's like $2,600
per deal.
Per deal.
Nice.
And I think I've got a feeling that even that is going to start to come down somewhat too. Now that I'm a little bit more hands on with our SEO. But hopefully on the Facebook side, there's pros and cons obviously to both of them. But SEO hands down is still my favorite avenue.
So tell me about how this has kind of changed your buy box over the years, your wholesaling, your flipping. Was it always that way? Tell me about that.
It's funny. I didn't even know what wholesaling was when I started doing this. I did this with the sole intent to flip houses.
Did you want to? This doesn't really matter for people listening. I'm just curious. Did you want to swing the hammer? Did you want the satisfaction of flipping the house, or was it more of the revenue thing? Because some people are like, I don't ever want to touch a hammer. I like swinging a hammer.
No, this was far more revenue based.
Yeah.
My decision to get into doing this. Now, granted, I worked on a lot of the houses the first several years. It's only been probably the last 2 years where I've had a more hands-off approach and actually doing the work, on the houses.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my time is better suited sourcing properties, and then running to Home Depot 6 times a day,
Yeah.
And granted, I'm not knocking you, I did it. I think most people probably have, but if I can focus more so my efforts and time into sourcing deals, selling houses, wholesaling houses, then undoubtedly. But tying that back in, I didn't even know what wholesaling houses was until probably about a year in. And I ran into a guy and we're at a house and he was telling me, he goes, hey, just give me a shot. I could probably move this house for you. I let him move one house and I was like, okay, wow, this sounds pretty neat. And then we started wholesaling houses, afterwards, and we still do it obviously today, but most of ours are flips and wholetailing, some wholesaling, and sub twos and things of that nature as well. But
so you've got a pretty diverse toolbox.
I mean, every lead that comes by, and that was one of my biggest mistakes, first starting off, is I was only looking for flips, but I wasn't realizing that there's 7 different ways to monetize a lead, whether it didn't fit my buy box, but there's thousands of other people who are looking just for rentals, and there's thousands of other people looking just for Airbnbs, and the list goes on. And, just because it didn't fit my criteria, that doesn't mean that someone else out there isn't looking, for those types of deals. So I can't, and even the sub twos, that is what keeps me up at night. You
Yeah.
know, it really does. Because now I've got eight wraparound, eight wraparound mortgages that I bought on sub twos. And I think about this and I'm like, I can't tell you how many deals I've probably lost in the
Mm,
last 5, 6 years just because, and I knew about it, but it just didn't click or make sense till
yeah.
about a year ago. And yeah, that's again,
That's
just,
the thing. If you could do it over again, it's sub
oh
two.
my God, I'd probably have 40 wraparound notes. I wouldn't even be talking to you right now.
Right. I was gonna
Yeah,
say you'd probably be on the beach.
exactly. Exactly. It literally keeps me up at night. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
kick myself on that one, but it is what it is. I'm always learning. And I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who does a lot of houses also, and it's wild. You know, I've done over 150 houses, and I'm still learning today, which is the craziest part. I'm like looking at him. I'm like, Nate, when are we going to stop learning, man? You know, like why don't we
Yeah.
know it all at this point? But
Yeah. There's a
yeah,
lot. It's almost indefinite. Yeah. I feel
for
like
sure,
real estate investing attracts people like you me where it just you always like people get bored way too easily. You always got to
sure,
be learning something. There's that creative aspect to it.
yeah.
Tell me about do you think you're ever going to get your license? You ever see yourself getting a real estate license or no with having all these tools and creative finance?
You know, that has been a question that I've gone back and forth with for years. Um, and I can't tell you how many times I've started my license process. Like I started taking the
Oh, really?
classes and I just never finish it, you know, and I've done it probably 3 times now. Um, but no, I don't think I'm going to, honestly. I don't, for me, I've got so many friends and buddies in San Antonio that, you know, are willing to give me access to MLS. So, you know, if I need to run comps or I need to do something, that's not a problem. You know, I've made good relationships with flat fee agents, you know, that will just charge me X amount to list a property. Would it be helpful? Yeah. But I will say I seldomly buy an on market property,
Hmm.
you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and granted, that's nice to say, you know, in my position, and I'm very fortunate that I've got the ability to, you know, source properties, but I don't know. It worries me if I go meet with a seller, you know, and, you know, I'm trying to pitch them on all the reasons why you don't want to use a realtor and the benefits that come along with working with a home buyer. You know, I think it just muddies the waters. And I think we lose a little bit of credibility too, because if you look at my website, it's all about the differences between working with a realtor versus working with a home buyer. So, and you know, with that said, I know there's plenty of people out there who are realtors who are doing really well. But at least for me right now, I don't think it's something that I see at least in the near future. But
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's funny. I think you're probably the first person to talk to that's like, okay, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna go after it, and then I changed my mind. Um,
it's so multiple times too. I'm like, you know, I see why it makes sense, and every time I go through it, I'm like, no, you know, maybe this isn't the best idea, and I don't want to have to disclose that I'm a realtor every single time too. It's really finicky in Texas. I don't know how it is in other states, but
yeah, interesting. You should talk to I'd be curious to know what they'd have to say. The home buying guys are in Dallas. I've had them on the podcast a few times, but they run the hybrid model, and so they've gotten pretty good at their positioning, going in saying, "Hey, if you want a cash offer, we can do that. If you want to list it, we can do this, and here's the pros and cons." But I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
It's a whole nother positioning, marketing, a whole nother mindset when you're going in to talk to the seller. It's a big shift in your strategy. Um,
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It's
Me.
something to consider. Although I tell you, I've really have been thinking of, you know, I've got so many leads coming in, and a lot of them I can't. There's nothing I could do with them. You know, the clients want full retail value for their home, and fair. And I'll tell them, right away. We're not the best fit for everyone. For others, we're an excellent fit, and there's a convenience to work with a company like ours. Now, if you don't value that convenience, no, no harm, no foul. Um, and I've referred clients to realtors before, and we've kind of worked out agreements. But part of me is thinking, maybe I should just start selling these motivated leads to agents, in San Antonio, and kind of help offset some of the marketing expense,
Hmm.
for what I'm trying to do. And then it just keeps me laser focused on, all we want is distressed properties.
Yeah.
That's really what we want. I don't want to be a realtor. I don't want to be a listing agent. There's no way I'm going to be a buyer's agent. I just want to be hyper focused on what I really like to do.
Yeah. So those ones that are, only fit for MLS or listing, what are you doing with those? You're just saying, "Hey, you'd be better off listing?"
Yeah, to be completely honest, if I've got a client who's got a house that's worth 300 grand, and they want 300 grand, they're not even going to get that if they worked with a realtor. But if they're,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
I can't, it's going to be incredibly difficult to try to work with someone when their expectations are unrealistic. So,
yeah.
by all means, reach out to a realtor, have fun. And I'll tell them, especially in today's market, if the house is on the market for 3-4 months and you guys get tired at that point, give me a shout back and we'll circle back. We'll still be ready to buy your house.
Yeah.
Uh, and I will say I've had a few clients who have reached out months later.
Been like, "Hey, I
Um,
just want the convenience." Yeah,
absolutely.
let's just do it. I'd
Yeah.
I'd be curious, man. I feel like you gotta start JVing some of those. Find a realtor in San Antonio, partner up, and
And I
split it.
used to a lot.
Oh,
I
really?
used to a lot. I had one agent who was working with a lot, and we were JVing, a lot of them. And it's interesting. There's so much of it. It has to do with time. There's just so much. There's only so much time. And yes, would I
Yeah.
love to monetize everything across the board? I absolutely would. But at the end of the day, there's only one me. There's only so much time I have, and I'm trying to really just focus on those top tier things that I know will do really well on, and not not get sidetracked with, because I could tell you I probably have 1,000 great ideas, you know. But
Yeah.
if I tried focusing on those 1,000 great ideas, I probably get nothing accomplished ever.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I feel you, man. Yeah, preaching to the
yeah,
choir, yeah. I
yeah,
feel you. So on the note of agents, one thing I want to make sure we talk about before we wrap it up here is it seems like you have an interest or passion for flipping the stigma around investing. Tell me about that.
yeah. I just think there is a stigma that ultimately, that people in this industry are cutthroat, that we are looking just to take advantage of people. Um, and I just, uh, I feel that's a stigma,
Yeah.
and I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me. God, I had a client once. It was Saturday, July the 2nd, and she was getting foreclosed on that Tuesday.
Mm.
She called me, and 4th of July was on Monday, you know?
Sheesh.
And it, I'm like, lady, I was like, you couldn't make this any more difficult for me. you know? I was like, you're getting foreclosed on, and Monday's 4th of July. No one's going to be
Sheesh.
open. And, ultimately, I get it. If she would have prepared better and, started working with a realtor 6 months ago to try to sell her house. But ultimately, in that point, I'm probably one of the only people, or maybe some of my competitors here in San Antonio, that could have genuinely helped this woman. And was able to delay the foreclosure for her. She was able to walk away with some money in her pocket. And, it worked out really well in the end. But in my mind, I like to set expectations with the individuals we meet with. And
Mhm.
I go in there, explain, the gambit of options that are available to them. And I go back and forth. You could list with an agent, you cannot list with an agent. You could work with us, you'll probably make a little bit less. And I'll tell people all the time, working with a company like mine is like when you go buy a new car. You could trade your old car in and it's over and done with immediately, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to change the oil, get the
Mhm.
car washed, make your car payments. Yeah, you're probably going to sell it for a little bit less than if you put it on Auto Trader or sold it on the open market. But it's just so convenient to do it. And this is, kind of similar. So again,
Yeah.
we're not for everyone, but for a right population, it's a very viable option. And I think there's plenty of times, helping people through probate issues, helping people who are about to get foreclosed on, just walking people through a difficult time, a difficult process where the house needs a lot of work and they can't just, it's not easy to sell it on the open market. And that's where we add value,
Mhm.
and is a genuine solid service to help out the community, not only to help out the sellers, but to help out the community as well, to revitalize certain homes. I can't tell you how many neighbors I meet with that are so thrilled that we bought the eyesore in the property, or we bought a
Yeah.
burnt down house in a neighborhood and that we're revitalizing the neighborhood again. So,
Yeah.
you know, uh, we, you know, there's solid work behind it. There's definitely honor in what we do. And, I just don't want other people to get bummed out because of, the stigma that can be
Yeah.
tied to us. So,
Well, that's awesome, man. It's really cool to hear about investors who really have the seller's best interest at heart. They're solving problems, not just in it to
yeah,
make a buck. Obviously, like we're all in it to make money, to profit, so we can
for sure.
build valuable businesses. But when you put people at, when you do it at someone else's expense, I feel like it's a huge miss. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate people like you who are
Yeah.
elevating the industry as a whole.
And it's interesting, man. And granted, with experience, things get easier, but just setting expectations with sellers
Hmm.
is just so huge. Like there's times there's so many wholesalers out there who will not tell the seller that they're wholesaling a property,
Yeah.
you know? And, I get it. I can understand why you're doing that, because you want to appear that you're in fact buying the house. But, we wholesale houses too. And we tell them every single time, I like your house. It doesn't fit our criteria really, but I know I can help. I need 4 days from you. Give me 4 days, give me a week, and if I can't move it in that 4 days a week, we part ways. I tried my hardest, and it just didn't work out. But you'd be surprised how many people are receptive, um, in that. And I think it just setting good expectations and even meeting with clients, I tell them too, I'm so scared somebody's going to leave me a bad Google review that I'm going to set every expectation with you. I'm going to be so crystal clear
So you're
that,
so you're totally upfront saying, "Hey,
oh,
I'm
yeah.
an investor. I'm going to look for someone to buy this property, yada yada."
Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, setting the expectation.
Yeah.
Um, I was just about to wrap it, but I want to throw you an idea here. I haven't pitched anyone this idea on the podcast before. I've talked about it with a couple other investor buddies, and let me know what you think of this. I'm just gonna put it out there and wait for someone crazy enough to take me up on this idea.
Let's hear this. Now I'm
So
ready.
so here's the concept, man. Um, what if, so you being transparent about the transaction, um, your sellers know that they're giving up a large portion of the sale for convenience. They're knowing that they're not getting as much cash as they could for the trade and convenience, and you're good at communicating that. What if you came back to the seller, let's say 60 days after the fact, and gave them a part of the profit? Say, like, I don't know, what's your average wholesale deal? Like 20 grand or something? Like Like
Yeah, it kind of depends. It's probably
some
between
are lower,
10
some are
and 30 grand, somewhere in that
so
ballpark, but some are $3,500, but it's a
yeah.
little all over the place.
So let's say you get a big one and you go back totally unexpected. You show up at their doorstep, their new place, and you say, "Hey, I appreciate doing business with you. I wanted to give you this is 3 grand from this is from the what I made from your house, and this is part of it. I just want to give this back to you, no strings attached." And then here's the kicker: ask them, say, "Do you feel like you made a um, do you feel like you made a good decision? Would you do it over again?" In that scenario. I'd be
Okay.
really curious to hear sellers' uh, answers, and I'm not making assumptions. The hard part is that it varies so much deal to deal,
That's
but
interesting, because
no one's gonna take me up on it yet. I pitched it to one person, I won't say who, and he was like, "Well, we'll do a few $100, like 600 for tax purposes." And I was like, "Nah, it's gotta they gotta feel it."
it's interesting because I've done something similar, but not in the exact same way that, and again, I don't think it's a bad idea, especially if it was, a deal that you did really well on. Why the hell not? But I've done it with wholesalers. I've done it where the wholesalers brought me a property. They wanted X amount for the house. I can't do it. I can't make it work at that price point that they're wanting. But,
Right.
we've reduced their assignment fee slightly. And I've told them, guys, if I make more than X or I get this done in X amount of time, I'll incent you once I've sold the house. And I've done that several times with several different properties. Anywhere from $2,500 up to $20,000 that I've paid wholesalers after I've already purchased the house
Oh, okay.
and they've already made
The
part of,
wholesaler, not this. Okay, yeah, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, that's an interesting point. That's something to really consider. And you've got to think, taking care of the seller after the fact, how grateful they're going to be and what testimonials you can kind of get out of that as well and how that all ties
yeah.
in.
Well,
That's
that's
something
the
I'm really going to have to think about, to be
Well, the
honest.
reason, like I said, as someone crazy enough to take me up on this, and like, there's no risk in it for me. I'm not the one doing the deal, so it's easy for me to
Fair.
throw out this harebrained idea. But I think about how powerful that testimonial could be, and the main reason I'd love to see someone do this is just I'm just curious because again, it varies so much from deal to deal. But I wonder if there's people. I wonder how many people would like have their head in the sand when they're making that decision, like they don't make quality decisions. And what if they're like, I don't know, I wish I could go back. I wish I would have slowed down, thought this through, but didn't have the time, whatever."
Yeah.
Or it could be the world's most powerful testimonial for you. And they might be like, "Yeah, I was pressed, I was crunched, I did what I had to do, but I would do it over again because I just needed out. And I'm grateful that this problem could be solved and would do
And
it
that,
all over again."
not
I don't
only
know.
that, there's just so much credibility behind it too. Could you imagine having a testimonial saying, not only did Dan take care of us in a time of need, but even after the fact, after he bought the house from us a couple months later, just wanted to follow up, check in on us, see how we were doing. And also, he did okay on the house and he was willing
Yeah.
to push that forward as well. That's a really, really interesting thought concept. I'm gonna have to really mull that one over for sure.
It's interesting. Chew on it. I won't be offended if you don't do it because I've talked to a handful of investors and every one of them been like, "Hell no."
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I'll get back with you. I'll shoot you a text one day and let you know.
yeah.
I'll send
You're
you a
like,
selfie or
"I
something.
showed up at the door. I got a black eye. Thanks, Brady. It didn't go well."
Oh, that's funny.
Something. I don't know. Maybe it's a not even that. Maybe it's a birthday thing down the road. But I like what how you phrased it. Like, wow, they thought of me after the sale. Like they checked in to see how I was doing, even if just the simple matter of that. It
Yeah,
could be
totally.
powerful. Cool,
For
man.
sure.
Well, I appreciate the convo. This has been really good. I think what I really like about your story and your journey is that um, it's not simple in the sense of like it's simple in a good way. You have a lot of focus. And so you're not trying every marketing method that pops up. You slowly added more tools to your tool belt. Let's do
Yeah,
wholesaling. Let's do creative finance, just one step at a time. And I think for people listening, watching, that's the thing to take away is don't try to do everything at once. Yeah, if you don't have a carrot site, probably should have launched one 7 or 8 years ago, but it's not too late and you
fair.
can still compete. It's a land of opportunity. There's a lot of ways to show up on Google. There's a lot of ways to do this, but take it one step at a time.
Certainly.
Supplement with your paid advertising especially in the beginning. Get leads in the door now while you build your SEO over the long term. And it's doable. Just
Eh,
because Daniel started 7 or 8 years ago doesn't mean you can't start your 8-year journey now.
for sure. Again, just the biggest thing is just do it.
Yeah.
Sign up for the site, start working on it. Just, it's funny, and I know we need to wrap this up here, but it's funny. People ask me all the time, how did I get started? Not really on the marketing side, but like on the flipping houses side. I was like, guys, I didn't buy a course. I didn't meet with anyone. I had no mentorship. I was 23 years old when I bought my first flip, and it was an absolute nightmare. But I tell you, after that house, I probably learned 2 years worth of knowledge by just hopping in there and doing it. So, word to the wise, just, find something that looks good, that's got a decent spread in there. You don't need to know all the answers, but you'll learn a ton from practical, hands-on experience versus, you know, just trying to do research constantly. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. That's good. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening again to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast. If you got value out of this, share with a friend. And if anyone hung on till the end and they're crazy enough to take me up on that idea, send me an email, Brady@carrot.com. Let me know how it goes. I can't wait till somebody does that and just, I don't know, let's make a YouTube video together. Let's document
For
it. That was
sure.
I forgot to mention, that was part of the original idea. Is like, if I could get an investor to do this and document it, like, open offer to anyone. We'll get you on the Carrot YouTube channel. We'll make some content about it, and just whether it goes poorly or super well, it's an
For
experiment I want
sure.
to document. So, anyways,
And the last thing too, Ray,
yeah,
if you don't mind, I would just
yeah,
say if
yeah.
there's anyone in San
Oh yeah,
Antonio who's getting started or anybody who wants somewhat of a lending hand or somebody wants a JV together, you know, I'm always available. Touch base with me. I'm more than happy to work on the first few deals together. You know, we could both learn through the process. We'll both profit from it. But, feel free to reach out and more than happy to take some time out if you're in the area.
thanks for saying that. Sorry, I totally forgot to ask where people can find you. We'll put it in the show notes too. But what's your Carrot site for people listening?
Yep. It's Sell My House Fast and then satx.com.
Awesome. So
So
my
like
house
San
fast.
Antonio, Texas.com. You got it exactly.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And we'll see you all next week.